welcome back to the show. Um, for those who didn't watch the previous episode, Zolal was on about a month ago, and she's here to bring us an update from Iran and some very important messages. So I'll let you go
Um,
ahead.
Thank you very much, Samantha, for having me again and for giving this platform to be able to share the latest on what is going on in Iran because I think that there are a lot of people who are interested right now to understand
Yeah.
what is happening, what we need to
Mhm.
do, or what is the way out of the current circumstances. So thank you very much for this
Yeah,
opportunity.
of course. Yes, it actually is better that because as soon as the U.S. struck Iran, I was like, what does she have to say about this? And I wanted to message you, but I didn't want to bother you because I knew you'd be very busy. So this is perfect. I'm so happy that we were able to reconnect about this.
All right. Well, right now it's 1 week in.
Mhm,
This war started. Today is day 8 of the war.
mhm,
Um, the first day of the war, we saw the elimination of Khamenei, which, of course, Iranians were happy to see
mhm.
Khamenei removed, even though the people of Iran, for the most part, wanted to see him be held accountable for the crimes that he had perpetrated and to be, you know, put on trial,
Yeah.
and to um, they were seeking justice. They weren't necessarily looking for anything else. So that was
Mhm.
the initial feeling of many Iranians. They had mixed feelings because um, I don't think anyone wants to see a war on their country,
Right.
because we all know that wars have casualties. We also know that it has implications far more vast than we imagine or anticipate.
Mhm.
Um, and the Iranian movement, I mean, the Iranian resistance from day one has always said, not just from today, but from over 2 decades ago, that the solution to Iran is neither war nor appeasement. It is supporting the Iranian people and their organized resistance to bring about change. And we we were seeing that really develop and evolve, especially since the uprisings in January till now. Um,
Mhm.
and I could briefly update you because when we spoke, it was during the internet blackout, and
Yes.
after that, once things got connected again, we were able to verify a lot of things, and we were also able to see, how people were reorganizing and coming again and taking to the streets again and whatnot.
Mhm.
So that was something that was evolving and developing on the ground,
Yeah.
and simultaneous the war started. Um, the reality is that because of our understanding of Iran, of the Iranian regime, its nature, and
Mhm.
also the geopolitical role that Iran plays in the region, we knew that war would never be just limited to Iran or even limited to certain specific locations in Iran because Iran is a very vast country.
Yeah.
It is one of the largest countries in the world. I think it's number 20, if I'm not mistaken. And so, just everything takes a different dimension to it, right? And what we are seeing is that automatically after the war started, the Iranian regime started retaliating and not
Mhm.
only targeting, you know, um, the US or Israel, but also targeting, countries in the region, from UAE to,
Mhm.
uh, I mean, throughout the countries, like
Yeah.
Qatar, a lot of other countries in the region have been targeted now by the regime,
Yeah.
and even as far as Cyprus, which is in Europe. So
Okay.
technically, this war has extended far beyond the Middle East now, and also into Europe. The Iranian regime has made threats in recent days that they plan on attacking Albania because that is where the Iranian resistance is mostly based. The
Okay.
members of the MK are there, and well, Albania is a member of NATO, so that would just drastically change the
Yeah.
whole situation on the ground. And today we had news that first of all, first Pezeshkian came to scene and said, "Well, we're sorry that we attacked." other Middle Eastern countries said we're not going to do it. And then Ejai stepped in and said, no, we are going to continue it, and
Mhm.
took retracted that statement that Pezeshkian had made. And you could also from that tell like the internal fighting, because
Yeah.
there are three people who are now in place of the supreme leader until they decide the next supreme leader. And those three people, two of them is Pezeshkian and Ejei. So
Yeah.
if they're contradicting one another, you could just imagine, what the whole country is going through right now. We're
Yeah.
also, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so I was wondering about that. I saw that some, interim leaders were appointed, and I didn't know if that was a guarantee that they'd be taking over, or I guess what that indicated.
Well, right now, this is the thing, like based on the constitution of the regime, uh,
Mhm.
in the in under whatever circumstances that the supreme leader dies,
Yeah.
then there is a committee of three people formed
Okay.
that it's the head of the president, the head of the judiciary, and one person from um, they have an assembly of experts, which is like the mullahs that actually choose the council of experts that they choose the next
Mhm.
supreme leader. So it's a team of three who
Okay.
oversee issues until the new supreme leader is decided on by
Yeah.
that council. That council right now, I think, due to a number of different reasons, they have not announced their final decision. There has been a lot of
Okay.
rumors coming out. Like for instance, one day they said you know, um, it's Khamenei's son. Another, they said
Right.
another mullah, whatever. So that's not clear yet, and that is
Yeah.
to be announced. And they may have made that decision and not announcing it due to security. I mean,
Right.
anything could be the reason for it, but right now it has not been announced yet. So
Okay.
that is the situation that they have. Also, because a lot of the heads of the regime have been eliminated and killed, they say from before the war started they had received a um, I guess a statement or whatever from Khamenei that
Mhm.
had indicated that in case of such a war breaking out, um, the Revolutionary Guards have, you know, a white card to just go and attack whoever they think is needed. So everyone is
Okay.
actually practically doing like their own thing. It's not necessarily very organized on the ground, on the side of the
Yeah.
regime. But one of the things that people are reporting from I mean, it is limited, the information that we're able to get from inside of Iran, but um,
Mhm.
they say the country is on very high alert security wise. The regime,
Okay.
there's martial law everywhere, and also because of the extent of the bombings, people have to take shelter. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why it's not really possible to use this opportunity to come to the streets or start doing something against the regime because of the situation from the air. I mean, you're
Mhm.
being bombed, you can't take those risks. The
Right.
reality is that the regime is also using that to be able to suppress more by saying, we're at 4 more now, and that has started to sink in for people that we're in a state of war, and so
Yeah.
it just changes the atmosphere and the issues that they're dealing with. One of the things that the regime is doing, which is also increasing the risks on civilians, is the fact
Mhm.
that they're not using, you know, the classical platforms that you would use or places that you would use to launch these rocket attacks or missile attacks. What they're
Mhm.
doing is they are doing this like creating makeshift, places to carry these attacks out. And while the radars of the U.S. and Israel or whatnot, they detect these locations and then they strike those locations. And those locations are not military locations because they're just doing this like on I don't know, like a moving car or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's civilian areas that are being bombed and
Oh,
missiled.
no.
And so that is something that's raising the casualties. And so that is why the situation is very critical. And also
Yeah.
the fact that some of these bombs that are being used are very strong bombs. So, I mean, you can imagine like the impact that they have. especially like
Yeah.
for instance in Tehran, which is already a overcrowded, you know, province.
Right.
And when you have a place which like such a high density of people in a small location or in a
Yeah.
specific locations, of course the casualties are going to be high because these are not precise, you know, attacks. It's not like the 12-day war that we saw in June.
Mhm.
They are, you know, just all over the place right now. So that is the circumstances on the ground. A lot of the, you know, infrastructure and everything is being destructed too. And so these all play a key role, I think, in, you know, the outcome of this war. And the reality is that um, I don't know if you heard the statement that like, President Trump made last night. I believe that he said um, when asked in regards to what is the solution to the Iranian regime, and he at the end of the day he said, "Well, I don't care if it's, you know, another mullah or whatever or
Uh-huh.
the regime, and also if it's not even a democratic system, that's not our problem. We are
Right.
concerned. Our concern is, you know, a for it to be a government that guarantees the safety and security of Israel and the U.S. So
Mm.
let's make clear this
Right.
is not about, you know, bringing democracy to the people of Iran, and democracy
Right.
can't be installed in a country. We believe that a true democracy, has to come from the people of Iran, and they
Mhm.
have to be able to take their destiny into their own hands. Uh, they really can't have a scenario where, like, at the end of the day, it feels like you owe a country something. No, the people
Right.
of Iran have been fighting this regime for decades, and they deserve to be they are the only legitimate side that has that, that should have that possibility to, you know, decide its own future and take destiny into their own hands. I think that on the first day of war, Mrs. Rajavi gave a statement. This was in the first hours of the war, even before news of Khamenei's death. After
Mhm.
Khamenei's death, she also gave another statement. These two statements, even though she has given speeches like at the for the British Parliament or with a there was a online conference
Mhm.
just on Thursday where, you know, hundreds of lawmakers and personalities were in attendance, and there she discussed this whole issue. But I think those two messages really outlined like where we stand,
Yeah.
where the Iranian people stand, what we need to concentrate on, both internally inside of Iran, but also at the international level and what the international community needs to do. If we have a minute, I'd like to read it like
Yeah.
really quick because I think it'll
Absolutely.
give a understanding of like from the Iranian perspective of looking
Yeah.
at the situation. The first message reads, "Dear compatriots, our homeland continues to endure greater pain and destruction under the rule of religious fascism. In these difficult circumstances, I call on all of you, especially the courageous youth of our country, to care for civilians and the general public, particularly children and the elderly. Protect them and help one another. Now is the time for solidarity. Our strength lies in the unity and cohesion of our people against the religious dictatorship and the remnants of monarchical fascism that seek to steal the democratic revolution. At this critical moment, I call upon our compatriots and all forces of Iran's democratic revolution to remain vigilant and prepared. In the war that has erupted today over the clerical regime's nuclear and missile programs, programs that the Iranian resistance exposed 3 decades ago, all parties involved must exercise the utmost care to prevent any harm to the Iranian people and to the country's civilian infrastructure. I call on the public at large, especially supporters of the resistance, the youth and resistance units, the members of the Liberation Army, and all awakened women and youth to rush to the aid of those affected. I reiterate that the ultimate solution is the overthrow of this regime and the determination of Iran's destiny by the Iranian people and the organized resistance, by the brave sons and daughters of the nation in the resistance units and the ranks of the Liberation Army. Our path leads toward the future and the establishment of a democratic republic, not a return to the buried dictatorship of the past. Based on the 10-point plan announced for the transfer of sovereignty to the people of Iran, the National Council of Resistance of Iran has announced the provisional government. The precedent for such a provisional government dates back to October 1981. I call on patriotic personnel in the armed forces to stand with the Iranian people. The Islamic Revolutionary Guards and the forces tasked with preserving the regime must lay down their arms and surrender to the people. I declare to the international community that only the people of Iran possess the legitimacy to determine the political future of their country. Iran is not its regime, Iran is its people. No future for Iran can be realized from the outside. It can only be built by the Iranian people themselves. I call on all to support the people of Iran. As the Iranian people demonstrated during the January uprising, they seek a future based on a democratic republic and reject both the Shah and the mullahs. Our homeland has passed through many turbulent periods. It will pass through this moment as well. But within the People's Front, we must choose unity, solidarity, and hope, and be prepared to pay whatever price it requires. Long live the people of Iran, victory to Iran's democratic revolution. So this was the first statement that was given. And
Mhm.
then there was a second statement given after it was announced that Khamenei was actually dead. So this is like later that evening.
Mhm.
And in this statement, it states Khamenei's death is the death of religious tyranny and the end of the regime of Velayat Faqih. Now is the time to establish freedom and the sovereignty of the people of Iran. On behalf of the Iranian resistance, I declare, based on the 10-point plan for transferring sovereignty to the people of Iran, the National Council of Resistance of Iran has announced the formation of a provisional government. The precedent of announcing a provisional government dates back to October 1981. As the Iranian people demonstrated during the January uprising, they seek a future founded on a democratic republic and reject both the tyrannical mullahs and the dictatorial Shah. I declare to the international community that only the people of Iran have the legitimacy to determine their country's political future. We have consistently said that the Iranian people write their destiny with the blood of their Iranian sons and daughters, and that there is no need for foreign intervention. We have consistently said that we do not seek money or the presence of foreign forces on Iranian soil. Now is the time for solidarity and unity against the remnants of religious dictatorship and monarchical fascism that seek to steal the democratic revolution and the product of 47 years of suffering and sacrifice by the Iranian people and their brave children. The NCRI, the most enduring democratic and independent coalition in Iran's history, relying on a resistance with 100,000 martyrs for freedom, presented the National Solidarity Front plan 24 years ago based on firm nationalist and patriotic principles. This plan calls on all political forces within the People's Front who are committed to overthrowing the religious tyranny and establishing a democratic republic based on the separation of religion and state, to act in solidarity and unity at this sensitive moment despite their differences. Here I call upon the patriotic personnel of the army to stand alongside the people of Iran. The Revolutionary Guards and other forces that preserve the regime must lay down their arms and surrender to the people. Until the provisional government is established, students, workers, oil workers, farmers, young entrepreneurs, nurses and teachers, women and men alike, together with soldiers and officers within the National Liberation Army, are the guardians of the public safety, health, and security, and responsible for addressing the people's needs and resolving their problems. Based on the NCRI resolutions, once the provisional government is established on Iranian territory, it is obliged to hold free and fair elections within 6 months for a national legislative and constituent assembly. The duties of the assembly are to draft the constitution, determine the new republican system of the country, legislate for the administration of current affairs until the formation of the new National Assembly under the new constitution, and designate a government which, following the resignation of the 6-month provisional government, will assume responsibility for the country's affairs under the supervision of the Constituent Assembly. I emphasize once again that the NCRI and the provisional government are not seeking power, but rather the transfer of power to the sovereignty of the Iranian people. Hail to the people of Iran, victory to the Democratic Revolution of Iran, and long live the Democratic Republic. So those were the two messages.
Yeah. I saw some of those. I've been checking her X account just
Yeah.
to see, and I do see that she's been giving some updates, so I'm happy to see that. So did I understand that correctly? The three that are running things right now, they have a 6-month time frame?
No, no,
It
no, no.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's the regime. This is the provisional government that the NCRI has announced. So once
Okay.
right now, what this means, the announcement means that we have entered the phase that
Mhm.
it's ready to be, I guess, to be launched or to
Yeah.
go into actual action. And it states that it states that it's ready to take that responsibility, because one of the issues that keeps on coming up is, okay, if the regime does fall,
Mhm.
what comes next? Is it going to be like a state of chaos? It's going to be like a power vacuum? Is it going to be civil war in Iran? Is it going to be, what's going to happen?
Right.
Um, so this is actually addressing that
Mhm.
it's not going to be, a free for all, and it's not going to be,
Yeah.
a power vacuum. There is a plan in place. It has complete, outlines of, who everyone takes on, different responsibilities, but it is ready to do so, and it could
Yeah.
be, you know, um, implemented at any moment. But as it says, I think it says once it is formed um, on the territory of Iran. So
Uh-huh.
that has yet to happen. Right now, what is
Gotcha.
happening is based on the current constitution of the regime, the Islamic
Uh-huh.
Republic. So based on their constitution, until they decide the new supreme leader, it's being led by this team of three.
Okay. Gotcha. How
And that is
so
why, sorry, just to explain,
No,
that
that's
is why we always said that the situation of Iran, the scenario for Iran would be different from Venezuela. Like, for instance, in Venezuela, once Maduro is taken out, that system falls apart.
Mhm.
Here, that Khomeini is taken out, the same way when Khomeini took his place,
Uh-huh.
the apparatus and the system is still intact. So it's not going anywhere. It still has that ability to continue, because it's not like a classical dictatorship like a monarchy. When you take the head of the monarchy away, it falls apart. Like the Shah.
Right.
Once the Shah was removed, that was the end of, the Pahlavi dynasty in Iran. But
Right.
with this regime, because it's supposed to be a republic,
Mhm.
I mean, supposedly, but it runs with the supreme leader. The supreme leader is not hereditary, and
Uh-huh.
it's something that's chosen. So that's why it doesn't fall apart, and it
Right.
still continues. And that is what we're seeing, and that's why we knew that this wasn't like, otherwise this war would have been over on Saturday. It would have started on Saturday and would have been over on Saturday.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality, because Iran is different, and the whole system is different there.
Right. Yeah. Which actually that's a really good way to explain it by comparing it to Venezuela, how different it is. Where do you see the next couple of weeks going?
Well, the reality is that we really, I think it's something that can't be really foretold because, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it is so,
Yeah.
both sides of the scenario are so unpredictable, and so it's
Mhm.
very difficult to be able to tell. But I think that the longer this war extends, it is not to the benefit of anyone.
Right.
And so we need to be pushing for this war to stop and to
Mhm.
allow the people of Iran to actually bring about change. I'd like to draw your attention to something. I mean, the 2 weeks like before, prior to the start of the war, or even actually
Okay.
not even 2 weeks, like 1 week
Okay.
before the start of this war. 1 week before was when people were holding the memorials for the 40th day of mourning after those people who had been massacred in the uprisings. In Persian culture, we have this thing that when someone passes away, they they honor them or their memory
Mhm.
on the first, third, seventh day, and then 40th day. They have like the
Okay.
ceremony, and um, those ceremonies across Iran, which were being held by the thousands of people who were killed in the protest, they turned into acts of defiance in face of this regime. You
Mhm.
saw mourning families not, I guess, withering away in their own sorrow or drowning in their own sorrow, but instead, despite having the sorrow and the pain that they were suffering from, turning those memorial services to honor their children
Mhm.
and to celebrate their lives, to and make a pledge with them that they're going to continue their path. And so some of them, they seemed like scenes of celebration in a way,
Yeah.
but they were, even though it was very painful and it was mourning, but also people use that to show their defiance against the regime, to show their resistance in face of the regime. So they turned to scenes of resistance, and this was
Mhm.
spreading through all of the country. And when you look at the precedent of such a thing, that is how the 1979 revolution came about. Back then, it was
Yeah.
like they would it was like the protests, people were shot and killed in the protest. Then, when the 40th day ceremonies were held by the families, those 40th day ceremonies would turn to protest. Again,
Okay.
the Shah would open fire on them, and more people would be killed. So 40 days later, there was also these ceremonies again, and those ceremonies turned to protests. So
Mhm.
it was like every 40 days, this was happening, and each time it was growing and growing. And that
Yeah.
is what turned to the complete revolution and for the overthrow of the Shah. So there is that precedent here too. That
Yeah.
was a element for the regime to, their raiders were like, okay, this is a serious issue right now. Especially because they tried everything they could to limit the families from holding
Mhm.
ceremonies or chanting or doing anything against the regime or using these platforms, because they knew that people were just like, in grief, and they were so um, agitated with the whole situation, and
Yeah.
so the regime was on high alert. There was martial law in place in Iran since January till now, so
Okay.
that was a continuation of that. But that Saturday, so Saturday, February 22nd,
Mhm.
um, universities started holding classes in person again, because since the start of the uprising, the regime had, because they knew that one of the hotbeds of the uprising was the universities, they had
Mhm.
shut down all universities. All classes were being held online.
Okay.
And so at this point, they thought, things have calmed down and maybe we could, resume classes as
Mhm.
usual. The minute they did that, protests broke out in universities across Iran. So
Oh,
everyone, like
yeah.
on the first day, they gave their call to action. And from Sunday, we saw protests breaking out in different universities throughout Iran. And at
Yeah.
first, it started with honoring their classmates who had died on the first day,
Right.
and then that really spread really fast throughout the country. And so within 4 days, the regime announced again that all classes are going to be online till the end of the Persian year, which is like in 2 3 weeks. So um,
Okay.
they continued that, and then it's going to be like the New Year's break for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So until April, all classes will not be held in person. Um,
Right.
and then we also saw that Saturday, actually, we saw about two groups that we saw the videos of. um, of resistance units
Mhm.
coming together in broad daylight in Tehran with these huge flags on motorcycles that they were saying the flags wrote on it, "We can and we must," and everyone knows what
Okay.
that means. I mean, it means we can and must overthrow this regime. We can and must continue this fight. And
Yeah.
on the other side of the flags were the emblems of the National Liberation Army, because the
Mhm.
resistance used to have a National Liberation Army, and so that was in broad daylight in Tehran at the time that there's martial law completely.
Yeah.
And people are just like, these motorcycles are going by them, and people are just like watching them in awe. Like, how brave are you to do that?
Yeah.
That's your death sentence right there. But, this
Yeah.
defiance and these bravery. And the first group were, I think that there were about like 10 women doing this.
Mhm.
Like, first of all, it's 10 women on motorcycles with like each motorcycle had two people in it, but they were doing
Yeah.
this. That is in a regime, in misogynist regime like this, that has this message. And then the
Yeah.
next group was about a group of like about 20 men who were doing the same thing. And so that really
Mhm.
spread so fast that it became in the trending in X. So the
Really?
world was
Yeah.
seeing this.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "What are these scenes?" And actually, today I saw that there was a video that the Daily Telegraph has created on their Instagram account, explaining like what has happened in Iran in the past month, and this is like one of the highlights: these motorcycles going
Really?
with these banners. And so that was like I guess in a time that everyone felt like they had just been broken, they just like,
Uh-huh.
you know, held their head up high again, and they're like, yeah, that's who we are. That's how we're going to continue.
Yeah.
And this was like, this giving energy to people in a time that, they were really drowning in this sorrow. And
Yeah.
then the next 2 days later, on Monday, there was a attack carried out by 250 members of resistance units on the headquarters of Khamenei. And this is the first time in over, I want to say, since 2001, the
Okay.
first time
Okay.
since 2001 that we're seeing operations of this sort in Iran. But at
Uh-huh.
this extent, it hasn't been seen since 1988. So
Yeah.
that was like a major turning point. So 250 organized members of resistance units carried out a joint operation on the most secure location in all of Iran, the
Mhm.
headquarters of Khamenei, at a time that they were on high alert because of the 40-day ceremonies, but also
Yeah.
because at the time there was talks from like 2 3 days before it that is Israel going to attack or not, and
Right.
negotiations had just started with the US. So it was
Right.
like in heightened security, these people still carried out these operations. And yes, the price was very high because about 100 of them were either killed or arrested. And but that broke
Mhm.
this this fear in society. That just was
Yeah.
like it had a major impact in society that, look, the flag is still being held. We're going to continue this fight.
Yeah.
It's not over. And that I mean, that just blew up in Iranian society and on social
Yeah.
media and everything. The regime tried to hide it at first, and they were actually, but the thing was that some images and things had already been come online on social
Mhm.
media. That day, the regime cut off social media and internet in Tehran because of
Okay.
that. Because that morning there were images coming out that everyone was like, "Why are there tanks in this area?" Because that area is closed off, so people
Okay.
don't have exact access to it. But they saw like these movements, tanks coming in, and then all schools in that vicinity were closed down and everything. And everyone was like, "What's happening? What's going on? There's something happening here that they're doing
Yeah.
this." And so that really spread really fast. And then the regime had all their reporters that would detract all of the articles that they had posted about it. But it was
Okay.
already too late. People had heard about it. So just five
Yeah.
days before the start of the war, the resistance units entered a new phase in their operations, and they were actually targeting the headquarters of Khamenei. So this is something
Yeah.
that was in the process of being done by the people, everyone, and then
Yeah.
the war started. So since the war started, the first day or two, there were operations being carried out by the resistance units, but since then there's been complete martial law, and because of the
Okay.
circumstances, it's really impossible for people to even come to the streets or do anything. So
Yeah.
it's not possible now. But like for instance, the first on Sunday, last Sunday, we saw that in, for instance, Maribon and Mahabad,
Mhm.
the people actually attacked like prisons, local prisons, and they were able to release some of those who had been detained in the protest
Oh,
and some of the political prisoners. So that was like, people were on the offensive. They were like,
yeah.
trying to target the regime, but right now their hands are closed. They can't do anything like that because of the
Yeah.
circumstances. Or like for instance, in Karaj, which is close to Tehran, in
Mhm.
Hashgerd, resistance units actually attacked one of the barracks of the regime, and they were able to disarm them and arm the people because the regime was also targeting civilians and everything. So they were able to arm
Yeah.
people to be able to defend themselves. So that was something that we were seeing. And I think the continuation of that is what
Yeah.
actually would lead to that actual revolution that we're talking about, an actual regime change by the people of Iran. So I
Mhm.
think the people of Iran showed with, yes, it might be like the limited things that we're seeing because it was the initial start of it, but they
Yeah.
showed that they have that capacity and the
Uh-huh.
capability to do that. But it's really important because um, till 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 last week,
Yeah.
any of these activities would automatically be labeled, due to the policy of appeasement, as acts of violence against the regime or government or
Right.
whatever. So they could be easily labeled and they could easily be you know limited in their activities because of what comes after, being labeled as a
Right.
terrorist or this or that. And that
Right.
has something that we have seen in the past, and that is
Mhm.
something that is of concern for people of Iran. So I think now that we have reached the point that where we are, I think it's really important for the international community to learn their lesson that, look, see, appeasement finally
Yeah.
leads to a war, but war is also not the response. So neither appeasement nor war are the solution. Allow the people of Iran to take their destiny into their own hands so the regime can't actually manipulate it and try to, project it on other countries in the region. Because right now,
Yeah.
if this continues, this could lead to, I would hate to say, but a world war, and that's nothing
Right.
that anyone benefits from. Um, I think we have seen, in the past 2 decades, if we look, there have been plenty of wars in the Middle East. None have ended well in the
Right.
long term. So it's really important to, see that and
Yeah.
understand that it's really important to stop where we are because you need to take into consideration the long term
Yeah.
implications of this war.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question was, like, if the war were to stop today or tomorrow, would do you do you think you guys would be okay with moving forward, with taking over? It sounds like you're well prepared for it, and, um, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is enough has enough of the regime been taken out per se? I don't know how to be sensitive about it, but have they been taken out enough of them so that, they
I
won't
think
just
that
restart?
I think that the regime can never turn the clock back to
Okay.
before Khamenei's death,
Yeah.
and that in itself has weakened the regime extremely because, um, look, Khomeini was in power from 1979 to 1989, but the last 37 years has been under Khamenei's rule, and now
Mhm.
Khamenei has been eliminated. Khamenei never, even in these 37 years, he never gained the strength that Khomeini had or the legitimacy that Khomeini had.
Uh-huh.
Um, so anything that replaces him is never going to be able to be as strong as he was. But also, I think the people of Iran have reached a different point in
Mhm.
um, in this fight, and so I think that we will be seeing the growth of the Liberation
Yeah.
Army, as Mrs. Rajavi pointed out, on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that really, I mean, even before the start of this war, we said, you know, what is clear is that Iran can't turn back the clock to December 28th before the start of the strikes. And this is
Yeah.
something that this chapter that we have entered, the regime has entered a point of no return.
Yeah.
There's no way that it could pull itself out of this. And right now, there's no way that you could stop the people of Iran from continuing this path either. So I think
Yeah.
that when you put all of these pieces of the puzzle together, it's clear sign that the people of Iran will be overthrowing the regime. And I think that it is it is in a short period of time. I mean,
Uh-huh.
considering the situation, um, if that short period, I'm not sure how much that time is exactly. Like for instance, with the fall of the Shah, it took 18
Uh-huh.
months from the start to the end. This one, it might differ a bit here or there, but I mean, this is in comparison to the whole 47 years of fighting, this
Yeah.
is a short chapter that we have ahead. But it's really important to, um, you know, time is really of the essence. And I
Yeah.
think it's really on us to be prepared for the different scenarios and to be able to, um, I guess, make sure that we can create that concentration, that full concentration to be able to concentrate on the overthrow of the regime. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that Mrs. Rajavi actually mentioned in both of her messages was the importance of solidarity and unity in these critical situations on the people's
Mhm.
front, um, and also to try to draw a line, like making clarifying that you know where this line is drawn between the people and
Yeah.
you know the regime or those who have other interests who are trying to steal like the revolution in a way. So and I think that what that main, if you want to shorten it in like 3 words, it's a secular democratic republic because secular means not a theocracy.
Right.
You know, a democracy means not a dictatorship, and
Right.
republic is no to the monarchy and the supreme leaders of both of them. So I think in these 3 words, there's so much, you know,
So much meaning.
meaning
Yeah.
that it covers everything. And
Yeah.
we are seeing that unity now among a lot of Iranians. Like today that we had the demonstration, for instance, in Paris, there were people from like different political leniencies,
Mhm.
different ethnicities, people from different groups who had come together
Mhm.
in solidarity because they understood that now is the time for that solidarity and that's what we need.
Yeah.
So I think that we will be seeing that increase, but we're also seeing that awareness is also increasing among, especially in the among the Iranian people and the diaspora, because people are showing their true colors in these
Yeah.
circumstances. I think that, like for instance, right now, maybe in the past, like a lot of people would tell us, like, okay, we understand that you know you guys are against the mullahs, but what do you have against the Shah? That was like 47 years ago, and whatever. But now they're starting to see like why we
Yeah.
kept on emphasizing on this because we want to move forward to a true democracy. It's not
Mhm.
a personal, you know, vendetta or anything like that, or rivalry for any, I mean, on any basis. But it's really, you know, they're showing their fascist nature now. That
Yeah.
you know their hatred toward ethnicities, Iran's ethnicities, their reaction towards anyone who does not support a monarchy, and that is something that is shining through that people hadn't seen before, and now they're seeing and they're just like, well, you know, that's not what we want. That's not what
Right.
we've bargained for, and we didn't sacrifice so much to have like another form of a dictatorship. That's not what we want. And so I
Right.
think that's really important. And just sticking to those basics to make sure that you know people's sovereignty. I think that's like the key word here. That is what we need to create. And Iran is a very, I mean, it's like a, you know, I don't want to say a melting pot because it's very
Uh-huh.
different in a way. Iran is like, I guess you could compare it to a Persian rug. It has so many like
Okay.
different colors and designs in it, right? And we
Yeah.
have so many different ethnicities. so many different religions, so many different people from all walks of life. But
Yeah.
this country has always been able to stand united over 5, 6,000 years. So that is something that we would like to continue to see. And I think that that is like the beauty of Iranian culture. The country itself is the fact that it has always been so intertwined with one another. And
Mhm.
that is something that we need to make sure that, unfortunately, in the past 100 years, these, especially the ethnicities of Iran, have been suppressed systematically,
Yeah.
and we need to see an end of that. And that, those double standards that unfortunately currently exist, and
Yeah.
we need to make sure that there are guarantees in place to guarantees everyone's human dignity and rights.
Yeah.
I think that's very key, and that is outlined in the 10-point plan presented by Mr. Bajavi. Because when you look at
Okay.
the 10-point plan, um, it's very difficult to say like I don't agree with like this one point. And so
Yeah.
if you could put that in front of anyone and be like, okay, if you agree to these, we could work together. But even in the solidarity front that Mr. Rajavi has stated, there it actually has clearly stated that even if you don't agree with any of the viewpoints of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, that's
Uh-huh.
fine. But we are more than willing to, you know, reach out our hand in unity and solidarity, and we're willing to even accommodate you for
Yeah.
you to be able to fight against this regime. And that is something that we have done proudly for decades, and we've always tried to, because we understand in this fight we need that unity, we need everyone to stand together for us to be able to accomplish it. And I think that
Yeah.
now, as a whole, the Iranian community, or the people of Iran, understand the importance of that solidarity and unity.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much you see, like, I guess some of the things that we have been seeing here in the US, people have been sharing videos of what Iran looked like before 1979, and those videos reflect exactly what you described, the Persian rug thing. Everyone looked a little bit like they came from different cultures, but everyone looked so happy, and it just looked like such a wonderful place to be, and I hope that we can see that for Iran again after this is all said and done, 'cause it
Yeah, we hope that we'll actually be able to see like true freedom. I mean, some of
Mhm.
the videos that you see from the beginning of the revolution, they truly are, people were happy like the
Yeah.
first few months before Khomeini's reign.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of the videos that you do see that are being presented as what we had during the Shah's time, and it was so perfect and good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's kind of like in comparison to say like what you see on Instagram is life. It's not that
Yeah.
way, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, because unfortunately, and there was a reason that the people of Iran revolted, because there wasn't
Right.
those freedoms, and because there was the persecution, and there was the torture and execution and everything. But and
Yeah.
also um the economic devastation. I mean, people were living under poverty, and you know, there were shanty towns in Iran and things of that nature. So that
Right.
like a different era, but unfortunately, right now it's far worse than then.
Yeah.
But back then, we also had these issues, and that's why the people of Iran had revolted. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
their revolution was hijacked. So
Yeah.
well, hopefully, this time around, we'll be able to get it done
Yeah.
right.
Yes. Well, so when I had talked to you a month ago, I was talking about how it just seemed like even here in America, we were talking about how it felt like you guys were it was really gonna happen this time. And then so when the US struck Iran, people and then we heard that Khomeini was taken out, it a lot of people celebrated for you, even though this is about nuclear capabilities, a lot of people recognize this as a chance for you guys to really find freedom. And so I think it's almost, I think a lot of people are just completely forgetting about the nuclear aspect about it. But, I was really happy, because a month ago you had said you you don't want another country to come in. and make these decisions for you. And Trump had said, now is the time, like we're taking the regime out. Now is the time for the Iranian people to come take back their country. And yeah, like they had said that this war isn't about regime change. And so I think just happens to be helping helping you guys out that we're um bombing over nuclear stuff. I just hope that it can end quickly before any more lives are lost, and that you guys are able to take it from here. It's,
Yeah, I think that as I said, the people of Iran are more than ready to take it on
yeah.
themselves, and I think it's really important to recognize that and to stand by them. And I think the first step is, like, for instance, for us to ask our lawmakers to recognize the provisional government that
Mhm.
has been announced by the NCRI, to stand by the people of Iran and allow them to take their destiny into their own hands, and to, fight back against in face of this brutal regime that has killed so many of our people. Because
Yeah.
it's really the time for change is now, and
Yeah.
we need to really be able to use this instance right now. But
Mhm.
we need to do it on our own 2 feet and by the people of Iran. So that is a key element.
Yeah. And now this is 30 years in the making, correct? Somewhere around there?
47 years in
40, oh my gosh.
45, 45 years
45,
since
oh my gosh.
actually in July it'll be 45 years that the NCRA
Okay.
has been formed, and
Wow.
the all-out fight against the mullahs has started in June 20th. It'll be 45 years, but
Wow.
it started even before then. So, but
Yeah.
the whole fight for freedom in Iran, it's 120 years now. And throughout these
Right.
120 years, we've had maybe a few months of freedom in between, and
Mhm.
just 2 years during Dr. Mossadegh's time, where
Yeah.
Iran was had some kind of a democratic government,
Y
and
yeah.
to some extent. So yeah, it's been a long fight, but it's the final steps.
Yeah. I don't know where the 30 years came from in my head, but I guess,
Uh,
yeah, my point is you've been working with this for decades. This isn't some new thing. Um, I mean, just doing my own looking into it, it looks like you guys have considered everything and are just fully prepared. So it's exciting.
it is. Hopefully next time I
Yeah.
could be online from Tehran and
Yeah.
briefing you. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yes, I do appreciate you reaching out, and anytime you have an update, I would love to hear from you
okay.
and hear what's going on. Is there
Absolutely.
anything else that you want people to know? Or
No, and just to try, I mean, I know that it's a very difficult time, but trying to keep up to date in awareness is really important and key.
yeah.
And also reach out to your lawmakers and reach out to the Iranian community where you live. If you're in the US, as we mentioned last time, there's the Organization of Iranian American Communities. Today they had actually a rally in Washington. Um, and it's really important to stand with them and also help them in the different campaigns and work that they're doing. In It's in the same direction as to make sure that we can implement that people's
Yeah.
sovereignty that we yearn for.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. So,
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with you.
yes, thank you so much. Keep me updated and stay safe. All
Will
right.
do.